Coming up on Tech News Weekly, Jason Howell and I talk about Samsung, which had a big week. Mr. Mobile, a.k.a. Michael Fisher, joins us to talk about the Galaxy Z Flip and, I guess, the Galaxy S20. We also talked to Mike Murphy of Protocol about MWC Barcelona's cancellation. It may not impact big companies, but smaller ones could be hurt by the decision. And then a chat with Android Central's Daniel Bader about Andy Rubin and the end of Essential. Plus, laser guns, pew, 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 and a moratorium on facial recognition. Stay tuned. Tech News Weekly is brought to you from LastPass Studios. Securing every access point in your company doesn't have to be a challenge. LastPass unifies access and authentication to make securing your employees simple and secure. Check out lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Weekly, episode 120, recorded Thursday, February 13th, 2020. This episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by LastPass. Reused passwords are compromising the security of businesses worldwide. LastPass will ensure that your employees are using passwords securely by generating strong passwords for them. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
And by IT Pro TV, get the most up-to-date IT training with IT Pro TV. Their video courses, virtual labs, and practice tests will give you everything you need to become a successful IT professional. Visit itpro.tv/TNW for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. Just use code TNW30 at checkout.
And by Zapier. Zapier connects all your business software and handles the work for you so you can focus on what matters most. Right now, through the end of the month, go to zapier.com/TNW for your free 14-day trial.
Hello and welcome to Tech News Weekly.
Oh, yes, you've come to the right place. Yes. And by come to the right place, I mean you subscribe to the podcast and we've delivered to you automatically.
Welcome to my castle, where every week we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news.
Oh, my goodness, you're not going to do that the whole show, are you?
I am the wizard, Mikah Sargent.
And I'm Jason Howell. I'm running for the hills. I'm
Don't
scared
run
of the
for
wizard.
the hills. I have so much power, I can bring you back in an abracadabra.
That's
okay,
true.
I'm done.
I succumb to that. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back in the dragon saddle.
The dragon saddle. That works for me, sort of.
Thank you.
Okay, a lot of really interesting big news. You'll get over it. It's okay. Just you nurse yourself back to.
Am I really here?
Back to health. I don't even know. First and foremost of all the big news stories, I would say this was Samsung's big week.
Absolutely.
Usually we get to the end of Samsung's yearly Unpacked event, clamoring over the next Galaxy S device. And while the S20 was indeed announced, it's interesting enough on its own for sure. That was not the star of the show. Joining us to talk about the Galaxy Z Flip is Michael Fisher, a.k.a. Mr. Mobile. Welcome, Michael.
Jason, Mikah, thank you for having me. And please excuse my voice as I continue to recover from this lingering sickness. Winter in the Northeast is no joke.
That's okay. It's all right if you're a wizard as well.
Yeah.
Both you and Mikah can be wizards at the same time.
Well, I fell out of the dragon saddle, and I have not been able to get back in. So this is, I feel like I'm in the right place.
In light of that, we're really happy that you could take some time and drink your tea on our show with us. So thank you for joining us.
Here.
So you were at the Samsung event. We were merely spectating, but you were there in the den of the dragon. Prior to all of the announcements, what were your expectations of the Z Flip? Because we kind of knew it was, yet another example of knowing literally everything before going in.
Yeah, right. How disappointing that this secret couldn't have been kept a little bit better, because it really was the most exciting thing of the announcement to me, and I think a lot of people. So I feel like there was an absolute nadir of surprise. They announced this thing. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a square, vertically folding smartphone, very much like the Galaxy Fold. I wish I'd been blown away by it in terms of like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. But it turns out there was enough to the product that there's still enough to get excited about.
Okay, so we're taking a look at a little bit of your hands-on. Of course, everybody that was at the event got limited time with these devices, right? A little bit of time with the Z Flip, a little bit of time with the S20. We'll talk about the S20 in a second. So you haven't had enough time to like live with this device necessarily. It comes out literally at the end of this week, which is pretty impressive that they're doing the announcement
tomorrow.
and then a couple of days later. Device of this type is going to be released, but you spent some time with it. I think an hour. Like, what were your thoughts after that time?
Yeah, that's true. Getting to go hands-on with the thing for an uninterrupted hour was really important because you see the thing, you understand the concept kind of immediately, right? It's like, oh, well, it's like the Galaxy Fold, except it's inverted. It folds along the opposite axis, so it's kind of a lot more like the Motorola Razr. But until you actually hold the thing and can kind of feel out that hinge and listen to it and yes, rub your thumb along the crease and determine all of that, like you don't fully understand what's been accomplished here. Now, honestly, I think that's what a lot of people are getting so excited about. For me, maybe we'll talk about it in a second. I think industrial design wise, aesthetically, there are things that I like a lot more about the Razr. The Z Flip is a bit of a kind of a box. But the improvement in less than a year from where Samsung started in terms of its foldable journey is kind of incredible. I mean, from the ultra thin glass to the hinge design to these little weirdo nylon fibers they have inside the hinge to keep the dust out. It's really, I came away impressed almost universally, with a few exceptions.
Ooh, yeah, that almost universally. Well,
Yeah.
so I mean, that's my kind of first thing is we've seen the. I mean, you're kind of holding them up the mistakes of phones past, and I'm really curious, kind of now holding this thing and playing with this thing. I mean, kind of looking at it, I could almost hear some creaking as I was just watching the video. Do you feel like this is a phone that you can bloop, 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 bloop without any concerns? Or how does it feel in comparison to the Fold that you have there?
So here's the thing. I want to say that the Galaxy Fold, we all know what kind of a rough start it had. I mean, it was, you almost couldn't have launched a more troubled device to begin with. But I feel like what's not as present in the consciousness is that once it was re-released with this new design, Samsung actually did effectively fix a lot of the issues that plagued the first round. So I own this one. I mean, I bought this on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or something like that. So I'm, what is that? I'm like 40 days in.
Sure.
I have never felt like I need to baby the Fold outside the first 3 or 4 days when I'm really paranoid. You know what I mean? Like, this thing is a champ. The hinge is really well constructed. I don't throw it around, but I certainly don't coddle it. And I felt the same about the Z Flip. That hinge on the Z Flip just feels like you chopped the Galaxy Fold hinge in half because you had to. You're right, because it's a different axis, and you could just do this like all day. You can just butterfly the thing, and it doesn't creak like the Motorola Razr. And I don't want to beat up on the Razr because there's a lot I like about it. I think it's getting a bum rap, but it is certainly, the Z Flip's hinge certainly leaves you feeling like it'll last you 2 years. You know what I mean?
All right, so then let's double down on that. Why do you feel the Razr is getting a bum rap by comparison? Because I feel like everyone who had their hands-on time with this device at the showroom, like all the articles were incredibly positive. Like, oh, Samsung did it; they nailed this. Where and many were throwing in the little jab at Motorola Razr to say, and Motorola failed, but Samsung did it. Why the divide there, and how does your opinion differ on that?
I think the source of a lot of that is entirely authentic and 100% accurate. Look, Samsung is selling the Z Flip for, I think, over $100 less. And in exchange, you get a bigger battery, you get a better display, you get arguably a more polished industrial design, you get wireless charging, you get reverse wireless charging, for God's sake, you get Android 10, an ultra-wide camera, all of these things that the Razr does not bundle in. So I understand the love affair that everyone's having with the Z Flip, and I'm looking forward to spending more time with it and doing a direct comparison. It just seems to me that people are, as a result of all of this heavy spec loading, willing to forgive the Z Flip for things that are going to be really annoying. Have you guys seen the external display on the thing? Because if you blink, you'll miss it. No, it's not tiny. It's a pinky nail. And I love that Samsung put on a touch layer so that you can tap it to answer calls and you can scroll through your messages and stuff. But it's literally like maybe 1.5 of my pinky nails.
Oh, wow.
And like you try and take a selfie with this thing in your head, like it letterboxes your head, so you just kind of see your eyes. And,
You're cropped,
it's like,
Wilson?
Why even put this on there? Like you essentially, if you buy the Z Flip, you have to buy a Galaxy Watch to go with it. You cannot rely on that external display for everything. And that factors into a lot of complaints that people already have about foldables. I have, for some reason, a lot of pragmatists in my followers, which is weird because I like weird future-leaning stuff. And they're all like, I'm going to be so annoyed if I have to flip open this phone every time. And that's one area the Razr really does win, like this giant external display, giant by comparison, which you can actually do stuff on and triage notifications and change your podcast up and use Google Assistant. Like you can do a lot without opening the Razr. You can't do anything without opening the Z Flip. So that's the one area.
Interesting. One of the features that really piqued my interest going into this, because I'm still somewhat confused about it, is the foldable glass display. The fact that it's a glass display versus a plastic display that we've seen on the other foldables, including Samsung's previous Galaxy Fold. So, like, what is your impression of that look, feel, how it even functions? I mean, what do you think about that?
So I can speak to it from a practical standpoint. I am deeply ashamed to admit that I spent an hour with this phone, putting my hands all over it, and never once just stopped for 1 second to register the difference between how my thumb felt on the Fold and how my thumb feels on the Z Flip. Because Marquez, David, a bunch of other people have said that, oh yeah, it certainly feels like glass, because it is glass.
Right.
I think the practical benefit for me is, look, what I want is a screen that doesn't have a visible crease in it. The Galaxy Fold and the Z Flip both have this same very pronounced visible gutter. You feel it when your thumb goes across it. It's distracting. It's not so distracting that I think you shouldn't buy the product. It's just like, I'm paying this much for a device that feels right? Whereas, and again, sorry to bring it back to the Razr for a second, but I feel like Motorola wins there too. You can't really see it on my poor webcam feed, but this screen doesn't really have a crease when it's open because of the design of the hinge. But it's a plastic screen, right? So this is going to be much more susceptible to scratches and rubs and fingernail damage and all that kind of stuff. And so is a Galaxy Fold. Whereas Z Flip, in theory, because it is literally glass, despite that crease, it should be a more durable display over time. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, remains to be seen. Now, I would love to talk to you all day about this, but we really don't have a whole lot more time. But I do want to touch in on what would have been the biggest announcement if this was last year and there was no Z Flip, which would be the S20. And people can obviously expect what to find from the S20. It's a
spec bomb.
It's a spec bomb, updated, better camera, all this kind of stuff. What we've come to expect from Samsung. Do you think that Samsung has diminished the importance of the S20 by coupling up the announcement and the release of the S20 with the Z Flip? Like, are they detracting at all from their portfolio by doing that?
I don't think so. I think strategically I would have done the exact same thing. Because if you have a big splashy thing where you're going to bring everybody to San Francisco and as much media as you can, you're going to show them, if you do it the way they did, hey, not only are we pushing the boundaries with this Z Flip and the Galaxy Fold and whatever's coming next in our crazy division, our skunk works, but also, hey, remember how we own basically the entire Android ecosystem in terms of profit, in terms of volume, in terms of all that kind of stuff. Well, here's our latest with that too. So no, if I were Samsung, I would have done it exactly as they did. That being said, I do find the S20 line a bit of a shame because, we're used to these spec bumps year after year. You guys said it right. I mean, they're iterative spec enhancements. But the S20 Ultra in particular really brings a lot of stuff that I've wanted for ages. When I used that Huawei P30 Pro with its very similar camera array last spring, I was like, God, I just want this on a phone that we can buy in North America. Yeah. And now we have that thanks to Samsung. And there's, right. And you've got the high display refresh rate. You've got that massive battery. You've got all this really cool stuff. But the S20 line to me this year seems to be just begging to blend into the background. They've put them in the most boring colors imaginable. They're just rectangles. Even the screen curve, the waterfall screen, which I didn't like very much, I'm glad to see that's gone. But again, it's just subtracting yet another thing that made these distinctive at all. Mm-hmm. So you can't help but be more excited almost about something like the Z Flip, which is like, oh wow, something new, as opposed to, oh yeah, okay, that's a gray or black box. That's cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Although the S20 supports 5G, the Z Flip does not. But really, who really cares? Who's going to really care about that? Or people will think that they care about that.
Going crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People will think that they care about that because they're being fed that from companies. Mm-hmm. And they probably won't for years.
Super Bowl
at this point. So
yeah, as Ryan Whitman was saying, I think the other day on All About Android, like it's going to be a year or more before anybody really needs to care about that, unless you have a 5G millimeter wave node on the light pole outside of your bedroom window. Then definitely buy one.
Well, those 5 people, they're going to be stoked.
Yes,
absolutely.
And, everyone else just going to have to wait. Michael Fisher, always great talking with you, man. I love your perspective on this stuff. Mr. Mobile, of course, or the Mr. Mobile. I'm sorry, I forgot the. YouTube.com/the Mr. Mobile is where people can go to follow your work.
That's exactly right. Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Jason and Micah both. It's always a pleasure.
Right on.
And hopefully next time I come back on, I'll be a little more audible.
I don't know. I think it's a good sound for you. It's a nice raspy quality. I think it works for you.
There's some
I got to get back to smoking cigars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Thanks again, man. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
See you.
All right. Coming up, Mobile World Congress. Big deal in the mobile space, in the phone world, but it's canceled.
Bye-bye.
Mike Murphy from Protocol is going to talk about who the biggest loser is in that story. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by LastPass. The global password security report you may have seen recently came out, revealed some interesting findings of the trends in credential management, access, and authentication throughout businesses worldwide. And did you know that employees have been known to reuse a password 13 times on average? 13 times on average. 49% is the average security score of over 47,000 businesses already using LastPass. This means ongoing password reuse is hampering those scores. So LastPass helps solve these access and authentication challenges for businesses through unified password management, also single sign-on, also multi-factor authentication. So many different pieces of security wrapped up in the LastPass offering. That's why I love it. You can manage password security with over 100 customizable policies. And LastPass recently rolled out passwordless authentication options for employees, so you can actually log into your work without typing a password. And, I don't like passwords. So if I don't have to type it and I know I'm secure, that's like a win-win. They also offer a single sign-on portal with over 1,200 applications, making sure that your employees are securely logged in to different sites doesn't have to be painful. It does not have to be a pain. You can get the LastPass browser extension and start solving your access and authentication challenges today, right away, immediately. LastPass goes above and beyond to ensure security for all of their users. Your data is, of course, encrypted and decrypted at the device level. Your data is kept secret, even from LastPass because of that. Your master password and the keys that are used to encrypt and decrypt data are never sent to LastPass servers. They're never accessible by LastPass. And as the gold standard, they engage trusted world-class third-party security firms to conduct routine audits and testing of their service and their infrastructure. We use LastPass Enterprise here at Twit. We love it. I've been using LastPass for years, but it really just opens the playing field as far as when you have to share authentication with somebody else in your organization. It keeps that secure. It just makes it easy to basically pick a authentically driven password that is not used on any other sites. And that's so important. Not to mention long character counts, all sorts of symbols and everything. These things would be impossible to remember on the fly. Thankfully, LastPass manages that for you. You need LastPass for you and your business with their amazing features that are going to improve security across your company and make life easier for your users. Visit LastPass.com/twit and you can find out how they can help you. That's LastPass.com/twit. And we thank LastPass for their support of Tech News Weekly.
All right, MWC Barcelona, which of course is the event we all still call Mobile World Congress, despite it being renamed MWC Barcelona years ago. It's canceled this year.
What?
The GSMA, the group in charge, has decided to cancel the event, saying that the coronavirus outbreak has made it, quote, impossible to continue with the event. Mike Murphy from Protocol is here to talk about why it's canceled and why that matters. Welcome, Mike. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well, going well. I want to kick things off, first of all, with the headline of your piece. I think that kind of drills in on what this story really is about. And I'll read it quickly. MWC Barcelona 2020 is canceled. Here's who gets hurt. So let's talk about it. Who gets hurt from this?
So I think, as I say in the story, that the big companies are pretty much going to be fine. Either they're going to be hosting their product launches on the web, or they'll delay them to other times. But there's a lot of smaller companies that may have relied on MWC as the time and the only chance they would have seen to get vendors, to get suppliers, to get clients, to get investors. This might have been their big spend for the year. There's a lot of companies over the years that I've gone to MWC and other events where, the stuff that I've ended up covering has been the things I've come across serendipitously. And, similar to that, the economy of Barcelona, it really has MWC baked in now. It's been going there for about 14 years. I forget the exact number, but it's something around 500 million euros is spent on in the city each year during MWC, and there's over, I think, 14,000 jobs that are created temporarily just for MWC. I don't know if you guys have been, but every station in the city will have like dozens of volunteers or paid workers showing people where to go. There's people everywhere making sure this thing runs smoothly. So this is a huge loss for the city, and also a big loss for a lot of smaller companies.
Right. So one of the things that I hear is, yes, it's a loss for the small companies, but the big companies will continue to be fine and will make their deals elsewhere. So can you talk a little bit about Mobile World Congress, as a journalist, a tech journalist covering it, and maybe as the folks out there who are privy to the event as a place where announcements might happen, new products or new ideas might take place. Is this one of those quote unquote room where it happens kind of events where there are a lot of deals that take place? Do we not just do that over email and Skype calls when Skype decides to work?
I think that there's a certain amount of deals they're always going to be done in person. The same way that I might serendipitously come across somebody. Some telco might come across a random vendor they've never known about and strike up a conversation at the bar or something like that, or one of the myriad events around Barcelona that take place during the event. A lot of the big stuff, it's not like Ericsson is probably going to be signing new 5G deals off the bat at MWC, but there might be leads that come out of it. And I do think that there are smaller things that take place. And a good example of that is a lot of the major companies that are there, they'll have their booth that like anyone can go to. And then they'll have this big other part that'll have security gates in front of it that nobody can get into unless they have, unless they're a vendor or unless they're like some public servant. Like I can't, as a journalist, even get into some of these places. And those are places where important people at the company meet important people at other companies.
So loss of opportunity there, although I'm also seeing a little bit of action on Twitter where, a lot of, especially the journalists who are going there to report on this, their tickets are bought, they're non-refundable, their hotels are reserved, they're non-refundable. And so they're like, well, I mean, MWC might not be happening, but I'm going anyways. And anyone who decides to stick around, like, maybe we can create some sort of grassroots meetings with some of these companies that aren't happening in the facility itself, but happening outside. Do you think they'll find success in that? What have you heard along those lines?
Yeah, I think that some people are still going to go. I'm trying to figure out if I, bite the bullet on this plane ticket or what. But I know that some companies have said, well, we were planning on doing briefings anyway. We're going. We if enough people say that they're still going, we're still going to do them. They just won't be at the convention center. Right. I think that might be helpful because, a lot of these conferences are the only opportunity that a lot of international companies get to talk to Western media or, international companies talking to people they wouldn't have had access to before. So there's definitely that possibility, but I don't think we're going to see anything on a particularly large scale.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned in your piece that experts agree that this was the right decision to make. I'd love it if you talked a little bit more about that, because I see some kind of competing information there where we have, especially here in the United States, there are a lot of epidemiologists and other doctors warning against getting overly frightened about something, and here are the ways you can protect yourself, and here are the ways you don't need to worry about protecting yourself, including I remember seeing a photo of a man on an airplane wearing a full sort of personalized air bubble suit in his seat.
Maybe going a little too far on that one.
You might be. I mean, hey, I whatever. If you do you, I guess. Yeah. Yes. But my question is, why was this the right decision to make, as opposed to if CES maybe was taking place now, where we might still see that in Vegas? Why was it the right decision for Barcelona? Why have experts said, yeah, that was probably a good thing to do?
Well, I would expect that if this had happened during CES, we would have seen the same thing happen, most likely. I doubt this would have gone ahead if the coronavirus had spread so massively at that point. Okay. But on top of that, I think that the reason that this is big compared to like walking down the street in San Francisco or New York is the confluence of people and the places that they could have come from or met with other people that could have come from places is going to just massively be so much higher at a conference where there's over 100,000 people in attendance. At the end of the day, it might not be that you were coming from Wuhan or Hubei province, but you might have been at the airport where there was a super infector that could potentially have gotten on your flight. And it's like conferences are the exact thing that you're gonna want to hold off on if you're trying to curtail a pandemic, I think. And there were people from all over the world that were coming to this. It wasn't just Western media, it wasn't just Eastern media or companies from wherever. It's people from all over. That being said, I don't know. Maybe there could have just been a scaled back conference, and there could have just been, like at the Samsung event the other day, there were people just testing people's temperatures with electronic monitors. MWC said they were going to do that. Maybe that would have been enough, but I think the real issue was, even if there wasn't going to have been an issue on the conference floor, enough companies had pulled out where it was seemingly untenable to actually have the conference anymore.
Now, I saw that you sort of talked about some of the things, you talked about the serendipity in the smaller companies that might not do so hot because of the cancellation of this. But one of the big things with Mobile World Congress, obviously, when you've got this big group of folks that talk about phones and the communication between devices, is something like 5G. But it looks like, regardless, 5G is immune to the coronavirus, is sort of what your article seems to state, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, there might be announcements, there might be holdups. If there are production parts that need to come from places in China that are under lockdown still, there will be disruptions there. But as I said, the big companies are not really going to be massively affected by this. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I feel like all anyone's talked about at MWC is 5G is almost here. This is the year of 5G, and it's like this year it actually is. So it almost doesn't matter that from a 5G perspective that, we're not all there to trumpet that this is the year of 5G because, Samsung just put out all their new phones and they're all 5G ready. I could look out the window right here on a building across the street and see a small cell. So this is happening. We're getting close.
You're the one. Literally, our last interview, we spoke with Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile, about this, and you were the one of the 5 people that we mentioned where we said, unless you have one of these transmitters right outside your window, ... It's you.
Wow.
Okay,
I'm in Midtown New York.
Yeah. Okay. But admittedly, like it was way less difficult to find you than I thought it was going to be. So
yeah, they're out there. Mike Murphy of Protocol, we do appreciate you joining us and sort of talking about this. If people want to follow along with your work online, where do they head?
You can head to protocol.com or follow me on Twitter at MCWM.
Yeah, congrats on your position at Protocol. I love what you guys are doing so far. Everybody should definitely check it out. Protocol.com. Mike, thank you again.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, up next, we will be talking with Android Central's Daniel Bader about the shuttering or the sunsetting, closure,
the cancellation,
stoppage, cancellation, whatever it is of Essential. But first, it's essential that I tell you this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by IT Pro TV. As a busy working professional, it can be difficult to learn new skills or make a career change. IT Pro TV has made learning IT and finishing IT certifications possible. See, students are able to learn quickly and at their own pace when their time allows it. IT Pro TV offers binge-worthy learning for IT professionals and always keeps their content fresh as the IT world is constantly changing. It's in their core values to have content that is current, relevant, and up to date. They're continuously filming out of 6 high-definition studios, providing you with training for what's in the IT field today. You're going to get the latest exam objectives, new certifications, updated software releases, redesigned interfaces, and so much more. Plus, another awesome feature is free members can watch the daily live stream at no cost. So that way you get to watch as they're creating. IT Pro TV's co-founders created IT Pro TV because it's the IT training they wanted to have for themselves. It's engaging, it's conversational, it's affordable, and it's convenient. There are over 4,000 hours of IT training that they offer, and they're the official video training partner for CompTIA and have 12 CompTIA on-demand courses, including CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certs. See how IT Pro TV can make it easy for you to grow your career. Go to itpro.tv/TNW and use the code TNW30 to receive 30% off. That's itpro.tv/TNW and use the code TNW30 for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. Thanks so much.
Thank you, IT Pro TV. All right, the long and winding road of Essential appears to be donezo. That's it.
I love it when you sing. I'm usually the singer. I'm so glad you're singing.
Well, you can expect that probably never again.
Okay.
But there you go. How we got here is complicated. It's messy. And so we have Daniel Bader from Android Central joining us to work our way through the muck. You're going to get messy, so we don't have to, Daniel. Welcome to the show.
When it comes to Essential, it's always messy. It's been that way from the very beginning.
From the very beginning. It's so great to see you, man. It's been a while. Thank you for hopping on. So let's start here. Were you personally surprised to hear from the company that they're closing up shop? Did you expect it? Did it take you by surprise? What do you think?
No, I think it was just a matter of time. The company had been at the center of Andy Rubin's personal controversies. And I think when the company unveiled, or Rubin himself came back to Twitter late last year and unveiled the Gem, this like really long and skinny smartphone / smart home companion thing. We never really learned what it was going to be.
Exactly.
He was just completely railroaded by critics, very, very upset that he would deign to come back into public view, given just how much scrutiny he'd been under. And that was that. I think the writing was on the wall. I think Essential needed more money. They couldn't indefinitely continue to just raise, to take Rubin's own money. And now that they were no longer a part of Rubin's playground incubator, they really didn't have a source of venture capital to work with. So they really they were hurting in terms of raising money, and nobody's going to give them anything else. So the writing was on the wall, and that's it.
So before there was Essential, there was Andy Rubin, who at one point, and still is, I guess Andy Rubin is still alive, so it's not like he doesn't exist anymore. But before Essential, in this story, Andy Rubin created Android. For all intents and purposes, he's kind of dubbed the father of Android, let's say. So he had quite a pedigree, quite a career prior to Essential. Things changed so dramatically for Andy Rubin. If you could summarize just real quick, like how that shift happened, and whether this should have been so easy to see all along that this would happen ultimately.
Yeah, so Andy Rubin left Google. He created Danger, which was a company that created the Sidekick, and that was released in, I believe, 2007, 2006. And Google came to see this as a fundamental part of what it wanted to do with the future of mobile, and purchased Danger. He then came on to lead the Android division and built it into what it is, or was, when he left the company in 2014, taking a massive $90 million exit package with him. Obviously, it was vested stock and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we didn't really know why he left. He left because he had transitioned out of Android. He was running a robotics division within Google, and it was believed that he was coming into conflict with a bunch of the executives at the company. But in 2018, the New York Times posted a very long and detailed history of his time at Google, along with claims of sexual harassment and misconduct that happened at the company, that eventually forced him out due to just repeated HR violations. And he started Essential in 2015 with the goal of sort of establishing himself as a leader in both Android hardware and software, but with a mind to expanding it into a smart home platform. So with the understanding that by 2017, when the Essential phone came out, the phone was really the center of your smart home, and he built it with that in mind. There was going to be a smart home companion product that they would release later on, which never materialized. But the Essential phone was well received, and it was a modular device that people to this day really like. It was beautifully designed, it was simple, and it received updates like the Pixel phones. And here we are, almost 3 years later, and the Pixel and the Essential phone just received its last security patch on February 3rd. So that is that. We are no longer going to see anything from Essential, including the Gem phone that I mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah, and the Gem phone, that is such a curiosity. Because I remember when that came out, I mean, people were either responding and reacting to the oddity of the device itself, and like, I just don't understand why long and thin device is better, like makes usability any better.
Did you see that keyboard? Oof.
They were either divided between that, but it did look different, and we're kind of in an era right now of smartphones where there is a little bit of curiosity around changing things up a little bit, and this certainly did that. So they were divided between that and the reaction to, but it's Andy Rubin, and screw that guy. Yeah. And I mean, there were a lot of publications who basically came out and said, like, we don't really care what you're doing. We're not going to report on it because of these allegations. So how fast things change. Now, did you have the Essential phone yourself? Were you a user? Were you a fan of it back when it first launched?
I did. I got the phone. It was interesting because Essential released it in the U.S. as an unlocked phone for $499. So it was a really attractively priced device. It was made of titanium, so it felt really sturdy. It had that modular 360-degree camera accessory that came with the phone as well in a bunch of pre-orders. So people were really excited about it. Up here in Canada, it was a TELUS exclusive. TELUS is one of the big three carriers up here. And in fact, it was, I believe, the last exclusive phone that TELUS ever released. So, just a little bit of a tidbit. They were really, really excited. One of my coworkers went down to Playground to actually spend some time with the Essential team and to meet Rubin and just go over why this was an exciting time for smartphones again, under his guidance. And there was a lot of hope that this would revitalize this sort of pixel-like but not quite straight from Google smartphone market, right? Where we no longer had these cheaper Nexus phones that you could buy for $300-400, and maybe the Essential phone and its successors would fill that gap. And I think amongst people like us who love Android and really buy everything and anything, there was this hope that Rubin would have this grander vision that would come to materialize. But once that report came out of the New York Times, I think everybody saw that vision would not come to pass.
Yeah, no kidding. And I mean, it's kind of amazing when you think about, like, in the last 3 to 4 years from when we first started hearing about Essential, the amount of money that the company, had invested in it, hundreds of millions of dollars. And over the course of that entire time, literally all that we have is one single smartphone that was released 3 years ago and a whole lot of promises beyond that. But it could not survive under the weight of everything else, all of the external forces. Andy Rubin, I'm sure the marketplace has a lot to do with it. So many reasons why. Do you think we're going to see a return of Andy Rubin? I mean, considering his background in the smartphone world, there's history there that he can always attempt to try and tap into. But then we've also got, the very big sea of allegations around him and kind of his personal profile as far as that's concerned. Do you think we're going to see him kind of turn around sometime in a couple of years and try and do another smartphone?
So I have my personal feelings, which I can keep to myself, and I have what I believe is a an environment where some people are able to come back after these allegations, especially if there are no charges laid against somebody who has been accused of such terrible misconduct. I don't think we'll see Andy Rubin in the public sphere for a while, if ever. I do believe that his reputation has been tarnished to such an extent that very few people are going to want to give him money. Nobody's going to run out and say, okay, well, we want you to build another Playground or another Essential. We don't want you to incubate our companies again. He may get away with consulting behind the scenes, which we've seen a few times from men who have been sort of pushed into the background due to sexual harassment and misconduct allegations. But I do not see him ever coming back into this sphere and being a public face of tech or of Android in particular. It doesn't seem reasonable to expect that to happen.
Yeah, and I would agree with that too. Daniel, it's so good to see your face, and I'm happy to get you on the show again. Daniel Bader, of course, Android Central, Mobile Nations. If people want to follow you online, where can they find you?
Well, I'm at JourneyDan on Twitter, and you can find the work of my amazing coworkers, of which Mikah used to be one. I miss you so much, buddy.
Miss you too, pal.
At AndroidCentral.com, and iMore, of course, which is our place where all the iPhone things get talked about.
That's right. Right on, Daniel. Thank you for hopping on. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Up next, laser guns.
Pew, pew.
But for real.
Wait,
like
what?
real laser guns.
Do they make that sound?
I don't think they make any sound.
Oh, darn
I think
it.
they're totally silent, which makes a lot of sense, actually. But it would be kind of cool if they did. But anyways, we're going to talk all about it. It's complicated, okay?
Okay.
But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Zapier. Growing businesses can be really difficult. It's really hard to grow a business. You should know this. Like, I've never grown a business myself personally, but if it was easy, we'd all be doing it, right? You don't want to be wasting hours every day moving data from emails to spreadsheets to your CRM to wherever you need it to go. Really, it should just happen, especially if you understand the process and kind of the different apps and services that might be involved to do all that stuff. And that's what Zapier is all about. Zapier has over 1,500 apps and is the easiest way to automate your work. So you can focus on what matters most. Connect all of your business software to do a number of things for your business, and really use your imagination to kind of come up with how you can use it. But you can engage your leads instantly. You can automatically import new customers, do things like notify your team about opportunities, all of this automation happening behind the scenes that makes you more effective in your job. Zapier is also more customizable. They support multi-step zaps, and that means that the possibilities are virtually endless. You can have multiple steps within your zap. So this happens, and then that happens, and then that happens between these two. It's complex. It's a complex system made easy. You can build the solution that you need in minutes. No more wasting your time on tasks that you know could be automated, because that's exactly what Zapier was built to do. You just go to zapier.com/TNW, connect the apps that you use most, and let Zapier take it from there. And best of all, it's easy to build the exact solution you need in minutes without writing code, thankfully, or without having to ask a developer for help. It's made easy for you. Join more than 4.5 million people who are saving an average of 40 hours per month by using Zapier. We use Zapier here. I use it to take notes that I put into Evernote, audio notes especially, and have those backed up to my Google Drive automatically.
Nice.
You've created a Zap, Mikah, that takes our prompter script and puts it in the prompter directory automatically when there's an update there. And that's just a couple of ideas. You can think about what you do on a daily basis, all the apps that you use, and create some links between them, and your imagination can run wild on that. Make more time to grow your business. Right now, through the end of the month, try Zapier free by going to zapier.com/TNW. That's ZAPIER.com/TNW. And you'll get a free 14-day trial when you do that. Zapier.com/TNW. And we thank Zapier for their support. All right. In news that shows how science fiction ultimately becomes science fact, laser guns that can kill people. Whoa. They exist. Apparently, China has developed a laser assault rifle. It's called the zkzm 500, and it's
does it flip?
What's that?
Does it flip?
No, it doesn't. Not that I know of. I mean,
ZKZK flip.
The Samsung ZKZK flip with a laser. No. This I don't think Samsung wants anything to do with this yet. Anyways, it can target from 1 kilometer away, a little more than like a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, somewhere around there. 15 millimeter caliber, weighs 6.6 pounds, which is similar to an AK-47. By the way, I am not a gun guy at all. I just think it's really interesting that we're starting to venture into this world of laser weaponry, which feels like science fiction. This thing can burn skin through instant carbonization. So basically, it could shine on your skin for a couple of seconds and start to burn a hole through you.
So you're not going to be encased in carbonite. You're going to die.
Yeah. Apparently, it's, as you can imagine, incredibly painful. It would be if this happened. It could also ignite flammable objects. So you could burn through a gas tank to ignite, to ignite the fuel storage facility in a military airport.
What?
Specific example, but there you go. There's an idea. Like I said, it's totally silent. The beam is invisible to the human eye.
I don't like
this.
this.
Just keeps getting worse, doesn't it?
I don't like this at all.
It just keeps getting worse. Not only that, it doesn't cost that much. It costs roughly $20,500. So I mean,
one is $20,500.
One would be around $20,000. Yeah, let's say.
I hate this.
Yeah, I know. I hate it too. Apparently, lithium-ion battery that's capable of 1,000 blasts at 2 seconds apiece.
Okay.
So, I mean, really, this is Star Wars here. We're getting into Star Wars territory. It's just that it's assault rifle instead of pistol. And I mean, even in Star Wars, I'm sure there are rifle versions.
Quite literally some Star Wars blaster
stuff.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Except it's even scarier because you don't make a sound and it's not fired by stormtroopers that can't hit a tin can.
Yeah, that's
2
true.
steps away.
Stormtroopers are historically bad at aiming.
Yes.
So everything else is in danger, not the thing that they're shooting for.
This is horrifying.
Yeah.
So these are in production?
Apparently they have developed it. They have intentions, and by they I mean in China. They expect their intention from the article that I read on Gizmodo to give these to the Chinese police as an anti-terrorism tool.
Oh my Lord!
But I mean,
so it's.
China's kind of, in many ways, waging a war on its own citizens. So, I mean, this is bad. I don't like this.
I don't like this. Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now you know it exists. Mm-hmm. I've done my job. It is possible that the UN could create a protocol around this. They created the blinding laser weapons ban back in 1998 that bans laser weapons that cause permanent blindness. I'm guessing that doesn't apply to this because permanent blindness is different.
If you shine at someone's eye, would cause permanent blindness when it carbonizes the eye.
Right.
I'm a lawyer.
Okay. I mean, that's true. It would cause blindness.
Yeah.
It would also burn a hole directly through you front to back. So it's a lot worse than that.
Oh, this is horrifying.
Yeah. So anyways, sorry. I didn't mean to be a downer. Just letting you know this exists.
Don't panic.
And we should all be frightened of these guns. Okay, what do you have?
I don't even remember. Facial recognition.
Oh,
Something
that's
else
fun
we should
topic.
Be frightened about.
Yes.
So there's a bill that's been suggested. I'm just a bill, just an ordinary bill. Right now, it's just an ordinary bill that started out on Capitol Hill, proposed by 2 Democratic senators. It's called the Ethical Use of Artificial Intelligence Act. Let's see, that's EUAIA. So not a clever acronym there. The bill would establish a congressional commission that's made up of 13 members. There would be people on it appointed by the president, people on it appointed by Congress. There would be federal immigration and law enforcement officers, and there would be privacy and tech experts. But the most important thing to me, and the thing that I was really glad to see, good job, Senator Cory Booker and Senator Jeff Merkley, is that there would also be 6 committee members that come from communities impacted by the use of facial recognition.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
So that's kind of one of the big things about facial recognition that we see right now whenever we're talking about sort of the downsides of it, especially with companies like Ring and how they're using facial recognition technology, which I love. Every time we bring up Ring, there's lots of conversation about it.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
But given that, I like that people impacted by facial recognition, the group that, those of us who are sort of skeptical of this technology are trying to protect, would be a part of this committee. I think that's very smart. So
important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Important for that perspective. Yeah.
And so right now, all this bill would do is say, hey, on a federal level, we won't use facial recognition and AI technology together until we have established this commission to recommend guidelines. So there would be limits put in place. There would be guidelines put in place. But until that happens, this would be a ban at the federal level for people to use this technology. So kind of just puts a pause and says, hey, we got to work together. We've got to figure out what's right and what's wrong about this to make sure that, and this I think is an impossible goal. I don't think you could ever pull this fully off, but I quote, to ensure facial recognition does not produce bias or inaccurate results. That's going to happen no matter what. But that it could be better about it.
To
would
what
be good.
degree?
Yeah. And not to create a constant state of surveillance of individuals in the United States that don't allow for a level of reasonable anonymity. I think
that right there is super important.
Yeah, I think that it would be. I think that it's completely honorable and right that we as citizens have a certain level of anonymity day to day. So, yeah.
I'd be curious to see how much, how far this goes and how much teeth it has from an enforcement standpoint. I mean, obviously, I think the example to compare facial recognition and what could happen, against would be, here we are again, China and their facial recognition systems that from the articles that I've read and the reporting that I've read are actively just scanning streets to identify people and match them up and all that with criminals and everything. And on one hand, you're like, okay, well, great, criminals get identified, but everybody else is being tracked as a result. And there's and I think that's the tricky position of facial recognition, because I think everyone could probably understand a use of facial recognition that makes sense from a crime standpoint, from identifying someone in a crime or something like that. There is probably a level in this continuum that makes sense, but it's very easy to veer into the other side where well, we've got the tools and we can, so why don't we? Because then that prevents these other things from happening. And I don't know, sometimes when I think about it, I feel a little pessimistic about it, just thinking like that is the inevitability. Like inevitably, that is where it is headed. Yeah. And I don't want it to get there, but it certainly makes a whole lot of things easy for people who are looking for solutions and looking for ways to take advantage potentially of those solutions.
I agree. I was just going to say, we are not the only ones thinking about this, obviously. The European Union is also talking, or at least they had been talking about a 5-year moratorium on facial recognition technology. No longer talking about a 5-year moratorium, but certainly paying attention to it. It's just, I think right now, a back and forth of trying to make sure that regulations are put in place to protect people while we continue to just see this technology explode and build, and it's kind of hard to catch up. Totally. Particularly when you have folks in places of power who do not know as much about technology and
or do not care.
Do not care, yeah. Do not have a handle on it, and instead are going, help me with my email.
You're my only hope. Help me with my email. You're my only hope. Okay, well, that sorry to show such a downer. How about we change it and we end it on an upper? Because we are launching new shows here at Twit. You launched one last week.
Yes. So I announced it 2 weeks ago. The first episode hit last Thursday. The next episode's coming out today. We're going to include a video at the end so you can learn all about it, but it's called Hands on iOS. You can head to twit.tv/HOI to learn more after you watch the little video. And Jason, what? You just launched episode 0 of your new show.
What? Shut the front door. I did not.
Totally
yes, I did. That's right. Hands on Android. See?
Oh, so I get it.
You got your iOS thing. I got my Android.
You've got your hands on your Androids.
That's right. I do, of which I have so many Androids. So you're welcome to use any of them if you would like. I'll set it up for you. But yeah, Hands on Android, episode 0 launched today. twit.tv/HOA.
Wow.
Tips, tricks, deep dives. When new OS updates come out, I want to dive into them and see what they're all about. Weekly show, very similar. If anyone has checked out Hands on iOS, I mean, we're kind of doing similar things, different OS.
OS.
Yeah, it's
same
exciting
hands,
times.
No, different hands. Different hands, different OS, same feel.
Same. Yeah, okay, we'll work on that one.
Yeah, we'll think about it.
We'll think about that. But twit.tv/HOI for Hands on iOS, twit.tv/HOA for Hands on Android.
There you go. And soon we'll be launching. I'm done. I'm not even going to make a joke.
You'll be lancing.
I'm done. It's time for Twit's annual audience survey. You probably have heard us talking about that. That's because we want to hear from you. It only takes 5 minutes, if that. All you have to do is head to twit.to/survey20 and let us know what you think. No sign-up form. We don't track you or anything like that. It just helps whenever you send your feedback. So along, of course, with helping us out by heading to those sponsor links that we include, we offer the shows for free. We're an ad-supported network. This is one of the ways that you can show your support for Twit. So we do appreciate you heading to twit.to/survey20.
Yes, please. All right. Tech News Weekly publishes every Thursday. Show page is at twit.tv/TNW. That's where you can go to subscribe to this show in audio and video formats, whichever you like. They're all there.
You can also be a part of the show by emailing us at tnw@twit.tv. You can also follow us on social media. Twit is at Twit on Twitter, at twit.tv on Instagram, at Twit Talk on TikTok. And if you want to tweet at me, I'm at Mikah Sargent on pretty much all of the social networks. I think I've gotten some new follows on Byte. Which is Vine.
Active on Byte?
I'm not active. I'm a lurker. I'm a parasite.
Byte lurker.
Which was the winner. Congratulations, Parasite.
Yeah.
Laser gun. Okay.
Pew, pew. I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to everyone who helps us do the show each and every week. We've got John, Jeff. We've got Masako in here. Everybody jumps in from time to time.
Ant was taking photos of us.
Yep.
As he does.
Yep. We appreciate everyone's help putting this show together each and every week. And we appreciate you watching and listening. So we'll see you next week on Tech News Weekly. Bye, everybody.
Ow. Laser gun. Ow. We should have pew-pewed each other, I think.
Oh.
So you got an Apple TV or an iPhone or an iPad or any number of iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, watchOS devices. And now you want to get the best out of them. Well, that's what I'm here to help you with. You've got questions, you got apps you want to try out, you want to learn some secrets, some tips and tricks. That's what this show is all about. It's hands-on iOS, and I'm so pumped to guide you through getting the most out of your iOS devices. So, if you want to check out the show, go ahead and click subscribe. You can do so in Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, or whatever podcast application you use. And if you want to check it out, just head to twit.tv/HOI to learn more.